Bit of news out recently, and I kind of wonder. I've written other teams to follow, not necessarily just relating to the MLR, but one of the MLR teams, and that's the Colorado Raptors. That's these guys. They have decided to withdraw from the MLR as of next season. So this season, which has already come to a conclusion early, is the final season for the Colorado Raptors. So they are the first team to drop out of the MLR. I've only been following the competition this season, which is kind of a pity. But I think generally, if you've been following it as well, or if you haven't, the developments seem to have been pretty decent so far, and the number of big names going there is good. Attendances are mixed, but some places get really good attendances. Games are on Facebook and some of the broadcasters in America. So generally, I think the MLR has been a pretty good news story for rugby worldwide, even if you don't follow it. But this one is a little bit of a setback. I believe they're still kind of planning expansion. Other cities will be lining up to jump on the MLR bandwagon. But yeah, this is an unfortunate one that the Raptors will be leaving. So they started as Glendale and then changed to Colorado. Runner-up in their first season. They were expected to kind of be one of the powerhouse teams, is what I've been told from people who know a lot more about the MLR than me. It's the Rugby City USA, right, is what they kind of brand themselves there in Glendale. So I watched one game in Glendale, not being there, of course, but on Facebook where it was broadcast, and it was really awesome to see. Great scenery, honestly, and clearing snow off the pitch and whatnot. But they've decided to pull out. They mentioned in their statement, which was pretty brief, that they're going to focus on the development of American players with a mind to getting America to win a World Cup. And it's it's a bizarre one. I would have thought if you wanted to develop American players, maybe they're talking about not having so many imported players. These guys signed the likes of Rene Ranger and Tigbe Ioane for the 2020 season. But I would have thought playing at the highest level you can in America is probably the best way you can be developing American talent. They've recently announced there's going to be a draft system from college level, so I would have thought drafting in some young talent and developing them through that elite level in America through the MLR would have been the pathway to that, but it's not to be. So second season for them wasn't as successful. They finished 6th out of the playoffs, and they had a 2-win, 3-loss record in 2020. I think they lost the first 3 and then got a couple of wins, so maybe the season was coming right. But I guess we'll never know. So it seems from what I've read and what I've been told that this is the only team in America where there's kind of a connection to the city in terms of the funding, and that people weren't willing to pay for subsidizing a rugby team, basically. So the monetary losses may have been too much for people to accept. Either way, it's quite a pity. So what happens with next season? Whether their spot gets filled by another team who can quickly jump in. The article I read, initially when I read this story, I thought surely it has to be connected to the lockdown, the fact that there's no sports on, but apparently this was coming even before that. So they weren't able to find a buyer, and I couldn't read any proper, full fleshed out details, but I'm not sure if they'll be able to get a team to step in for next year, but I know there is more expansion on the way. But this does leave us with a bit of a vacant spot. And like I said, Glendale has always been associated with rugby in the US, so tough times. USA Rugby going bankrupt as well probably doesn't help things, but either way, not ideal. And I mentioned other teams to follow, and I fear this is something that we may get kind of more news of, because it is all a bit doom and gloom at the moment in terms of not just rugby, but sports around the world struggling. I know the Aussie players in Super Rugby have been asked to take a 65% pay cut, which is pretty hefty. I think there's something likely coming for the New Zealand players. The New Zealand coaching staff have already taken pay cuts. Rugby Australia's chief has taken a pay cut. Some of the players in Europe have been taking pay cuts. From what I read, though, the French clubs aren't allowed to cut their players' salaries. It's a legal thing over there, so how that's going to impact things also, it really will be one to watch. The New Zealand Super Rugby clubs all got a $250,000, I guess, kind of bailout from New Zealand Rugby to make sure they can pay the bills and keep the lights on and whatnot. But yeah, it's going to be one to watch. Hopefully most of the clubs, franchises, teams, whatever you want to call them, can get through things. Even some of the national bodies, really we'll have to just wait and see. So it's a developing situation. It's a pity for the people in Colorado that they won't have a rugby team to support. It's a pity for the MLR, but I think overall MLR has been a pretty good news story still, like I mentioned, over the last kind of couple of years. So we will watch it further with interest to see how things go. But next season we won't see that beautiful scenery there in Denver. But you guys let me know your thoughts on this one. If there's any further information you guys have got, do let me know. There was only a little bit out there. America's Rugby News had there was a bit on Twitter, which has got the statement. The Facebook page for Colorado Raptors has got the statement as well. It's pretty brief. But you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.